The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was replacing the spark plugs on my truck. Hands greasy, knees aching from kneeling on concrete, I almost didn't answer. The screen showed a number I didn't recognize, a 617 area code, Boston maybe, and normally I'd let those go to voicemail. But I was waiting on a parts delivery confirmation, so I wiped my palm on my jeans and swiped to answer. Mr. Garrett? A woman's voice, professional, clipped. Not a robot, not a sales pitch. This is Jennifer Caldwell from Brennan & Associates. I'm calling regarding a matter that requires your immediate attention. I stood up, my back popping in 3 places. Immediate attention. Lawyers didn't use that phrase for good news. What's this about? I'd prefer to discuss this in detail, but I need to confirm first. Are you still residing at 247 Maple Ridge Drive? My address. My stomach dropped about 6 inches. Yeah, that's me. And you've been at that residence since 2018? 2016. What's going on? A pause. I could hear papers shuffling, the muffled sound of an office in the background. Mr. Garrett, we're handling the dissolution of an agreement that was filed with our firm 5 years ago. Your name appears in the documentation as the custodian of certain materials relevant to that agreement. Custodian. Materials. I walked out of the garage into the backyard, away from the radio I'd left playing. The grass needed cutting. The fence needed painting. Normal things. Safe things. I don't know what you're talking about. The documentation indicates that in September 2020, you agreed to store a sealed container at your residence on behalf of a third party. That container was referenced in a confidential settlement agreement between multiple parties, and according to our records, it remains in your possession. September 2020. 5 years ago. I'd been 3 months into retirement, still adjusting to having nowhere to be in the morning, still figuring out what to do with all the silence. My sister Karen had asked me to store a box. Said it was family photos, old documents, sentimental stuff she didn't have room for in her apartment. I'd put it on a shelf in the garage and forgotten about it. My sister asked me to hold on to some family stuff. That's it. Mr. Garrett, the container we're referring to isn't family memorabilia. It's evidence that was designated for safekeeping pending the resolution of certain legal matters. Those matters are now being revisited, and we need to arrange for the retrieval of that container. Evidence. The word hit like a fist to the solar plexus. I never agreed to store evidence. I stored a box for my sister. Your sister isn't listed in these documents. The parties to the agreement are different individuals. My mouth went dry. Who? Another pause, longer this time. I can't disclose that over the phone. What I can tell you is that you need to retain counsel, Mr. Garrett. This is not a criminal matter at this time, but depending on the condition and contents of the container, there may be questions about whether you knowingly participated in... I didn't participate in anything. My voice came out louder than I meant it to. I stored a box for family. That's all I did. Then you'll want to establish that fact with proper representation. I'm sending you a formal notice via email and certified mail. You'll have 14 days to respond. She gave me an email address, a case number that meant nothing to me, and hung up before I could ask anything else. I stood in my backyard holding my phone, staring at the garage. The big rolling door was open, my truck visible inside, tools scattered on the workbench. Everything looked exactly like it had 10 minutes ago, but something had shifted. The ground felt less solid. I went back inside and washed my hands at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the grease from under my nails while I tried to think. Leslie was at her book club, wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. That gave me time to figure out what the hell was happening before I had to explain it. The box. I'd put it on the top shelf, back corner, behind some camping gear we hadn't used in years. I remembered Karen handing it to me, sealed with packing tape, about the size of a small microwave. She'd said something about not wanting to lose track of important papers. about needing a safe place until she got settled in her new place. She'd been moving around a lot back then, between apartments, between relationships. I'd thought I was doing her a favor. I dried my hands and went back to the garage. The shelf was higher than I remembered. I had to drag over my stepladder and move 3 boxes of Christmas decorations and a Coleman cooler to reach it. The box sat exactly where I'd left it, covered in a thin layer of dust. Brown cardboard, anonymous, with my address written in Karen's handwriting on one side. No other markings. I pulled it down and set it on the workbench. It was heavier than I remembered, dense. Not the weight of papers and photos. I shook it slightly. Things shifted inside, solid objects wrapped in something soft. My hand went to the tape sealing the top flaps. Then I stopped. Lawyers don't call about sentimental keepsakes. They don't use words like evidence and custodian for family photos, and they definitely don't tell you to retain counsel over a box of old documents. I left it sitting there and went inside to call Karen. She didn't answer. I tried again. Voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I tried her husband, Dave. Same thing. Then I did what I should have done first. I went to my email and searched for anything from Brennan and Associates. Nothing in my inbox. I checked spam. Empty. I looked up the law firm online. Real company, Boston address, corporate litigation and settlements. Professional website, partner bios, the works. Legitimate. I called the main number listed on their site. Brennan and Associates, how may I direct your call? Jennifer Caldwell, please. One moment. Hold music. Classical. The kind that's supposed to be soothing, but just makes you more anxious. Then the same voice from before. This is Jennifer Caldwell. It's Alan Garrett. I need more information. Mr. Garrett, as I explained, you said my name appears in documentation from 5 years ago. How? I never signed anything. I never agreed to be part of any settlement or agreement or whatever the hell this is. The documents indicate that the container was placed in your care with your knowledge and consent. By who? I can't disclose that. Can't or won't. Both. Attorney-client privilege covers the parties to the original agreement, and until you're represented by counsel, I'm not at liberty to share details that might compromise their interests. I pressed my palm against my forehead, trying to push back the headache starting behind my eyes. You're telling me I'm holding evidence in a legal case? I might be in trouble for it, but you can't tell me who put me in this position? I understand your frustration. You really don't. Mr. Garrett, the best advice I can give you is to find a lawyer before you do anything else. Don't open the container. Don't move it. Don't discuss this with anyone except your attorney. The notice I'm sending will outline your options, but time is critical here. What happens if I just throw the box away? Silence. Then, that would be destruction of evidence, which is a federal crime. I strongly advise against it. So I'm stuck with this thing. You're obligated to preserve it pending resolution of the underlying matter. That's all I can say. She hung up again. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at nothing for a while. The clock above the stove ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, a neighbor was running a leaf blower. Normal sounds. Normal day. Except I was apparently the custodian of evidence in a case I knew nothing about. I tried Karen again. Voicemail. I tried my son, Brian. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hey, Dad. What's up? I need to ask you something about that box Aunt Karen asked me to store a few years back. A pause. Very brief, but I caught it. What box? The one she dropped off in 2020. Said it was family stuff. You remember? Not really. Why? I just got a call from a law firm in Boston asking about it. They're saying it's evidence in some kind of legal case. Another pause, longer this time. What kind of case? They won't tell me, but they're telling me to get a lawyer and not to touch it. Huh. That's weird. Weird. That was all he had to say. My son, who normally asked 100 questions about everything, who couldn't let a story go without picking it apart. He just said, "That's weird," and left it there. "Have you talked to Aunt Karen lately?" I asked. "Not in a while. Maybe a month." "Why?" "I'm trying to reach her. She's not answering." "She's probably at work. You know how she is." I did know how she was. Karen always answered her phone. Always. Even in meetings, she'd pick up and whisper that she'd call back. Radio silence wasn't her style. "If you talk to her, tell her to call me. It's important." "Sure thing. Everything okay, Dad?" "I don't know yet." After we hung up, I sat there holding my phone, replaying the conversation in my head. The pauses, the non-questions, the way he'd deflected without actually lying. Brian was good at that, had been since he was a kid. He'd perfected the art of answering questions without providing information. Leslie came home around 3, carrying her book and a bag from the bakery. She took one look at my face and set both down on the counter. "What happened?" I told her everything. The call, the lawyer, the box, the non-answers from Karen and Brian. She listened without interrupting, which meant she was processing hard. When I finished, she walked to the window and looked out at the garage. "Show me the box." We went out together. It was still sitting on my workbench, exactly where I'd left it. Leslie walked around it like it might explode, studying it from every angle. "You didn't open it." "The lawyer told me not to." "Since when do you listen to lawyers you've never met?" She had a point. I grabbed my utility knife from the tool drawer and cut through the tape on top. The flaps popped open. Inside, wrapped in bubble wrap, were 3 external hard drives, a laptop I didn't recognize, 2 phones in plastic bags, and a stack of documents in a manila folder. Everything was organized, labeled with dates and codes that meant nothing to me. No family photos, no sentimental keepsakes. Leslie picked up the folder and flipped through the first few pages. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. "These are contracts." "For what?" "Real estate transactions, business agreements." She pulled out a single sheet and held it up to the light. "This one has Brian's signature." "My son, not my sister." I took the paper from her. The letterhead was from a company I'd never heard of, Meridian Holdings LLC. The signature at the bottom was definitely Brian's, same sloppy half-cursive he'd used since high school. The date was September 2020, the same month Karen had asked me to store the box. "Keep looking," I said. Leslie pulled out more documents, financial statements, transfer agreements, corporate filings, and names, my son's name, my daughter Emily's name, her husband's name. 3 pages in, I found my own name listed as the registered address for one of the LLCs. My address, my garage, my name on documents I'd never seen. "They used you," Leslie said quietly, not a question, a statement of fact. I went through the rest of the box. The hard drives were labeled by quarter, Q3 2020, Q4 2020, Q1 2021. The phones were older models, both powered off. The laptop was a Dell, password protected, with a sticker on the lid that said, "Property of Meridian Holdings." Everything pointed to the same conclusion. This wasn't Karen's box. It was never Karen's box. She'd been the delivery driver, nothing more. My kids had used me as a storage facility for something they needed hidden but accessible. Something important enough to be referenced in a legal settlement. Something that could apparently land me in the middle of a federal case. I thought about Brian's pauses on the phone, the way he'd deflected, the way he'd offered nothing except casual dismissal. "Call Emily," Leslie said. I did. She answered immediately, bright and cheerful. "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" "I need to talk to you about some documents I found in the garage." "What kind of documents?" "Business contracts, financial records. Your name is on some of them." Silence. Then, "Are you going through my stuff?" "It's in a box in my garage, a box I was told contained family photos." "I don't know what you're talking about." She was good. Better than Brian. No pauses, no hesitation. Just flat denial delivered with perfect confidence. Emily, I just got off the phone with a lawyer who says this box contains evidence in a legal case. I need you to tell me what's going on. Dad, I think you're confused. I've never stored anything at your house. Your signature is on 3 different documents in this box. Then someone forged my signature because I didn't sign anything. Her voice had shifted now, gone from cheerful to defensive. And honestly, I'm a little offended that you'd accuse me of… I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm asking for an explanation. I don't have one. I don't know anything about a box or documents or whatever lawyer called you. Maybe you should check with Aunt Karen, since you said she's the one who gave it to you. She hung up before I could respond. Leslie and I looked at each other across the workbench. Around us, the garage felt smaller than it had an hour ago. The walls seemed closer. The air tasted stale. They're circling wagons, she said. They're lying. Same thing. I picked up my phone and called Karen again. This time, someone answered. Alan. Not a question, not a greeting. Just my name, spoken carefully. I need you to tell me about the box you asked me to store. I can't talk about that right now. The hell you can't. I just got threatened by a lawyer, Karen. I've got evidence sitting in my garage with my kids' names all over it, and everybody's pretending they don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. Her voice was tight, strained. I didn't know what would happen. What did you think was in the box? I thought it was just papers, documents that needed to be kept safe. Safe from who? I can't say. Can't or won't. Both. She was crying now, or close to it. Alan, I made a mistake. I should never have involved you, but they told me it was just temporary, that nobody would ever need to know that… Who's they, Karen? She hung up. I tried calling back. It went straight to voicemail. Leslie had moved to the box again, photographing each item with her phone. Smart. If this turned into something official, we'd need records. Notice anything? She asked, not looking up. Like what? The dates. Everything here is from late 2020 to early 2021. Nothing recent. She was right. The most recent document in the folder was dated March 2021. The last hard drive was labeled Q1 2021. Whatever my kids had been doing, they'd stopped or moved on or finished 4 years ago. So why is the lawyer calling now? I asked. Because someone reopened the case, or because the settlement is expiring, or because one of the parties decided to renegotiate. Leslie set her phone down and looked at me. Or because your kids decided they needed to get rid of evidence, and the easiest way to do that is to make sure it's found in someone else's garage. The implication hit like cold water. They're setting me up. I don't know, but I know we need to find out before that lawyer's notice arrives. I pulled out my laptop and started searching for Meridian Holdings LLC. Nothing came up in the first page of results, just generic business directories and state filing databases. I added Boston to the search. Still nothing useful. I tried adding my son's name, then my daughter's name. Finally, buried on the 3rd page of results, I found a news article from 2021. Local business section, barely 3 paragraphs long. It mentioned Meridian Holdings as a defendant in a fraud investigation related to real estate transactions. The investigation had been closed without charges filed, settled out of court. No names listed, just the company. Find something? Leslie asked. I turned the laptop toward her. She read the article twice. This is what's in the box, she said. Records from this investigation. But why keep them? If the case was settled, why not just destroy everything? Insurance, leverage, proof of who did what in case someone tries to rewrite history later. She pointed at the screen. Says here the settlement was confidential. That usually means everyone involved signed NDAs and agreed not to talk about what happened. These documents break that agreement. So if someone has evidence that proves what actually happened, they have power over everyone else who was involved. Leslie closed the laptop. Your kids didn't use your garage as storage, Alan. They used it as a safe deposit box. Something they could access if they needed it, but something that couldn't be traced back to them if anyone came looking. I thought about the lawyer's call, the careful language, the way she'd told me to retain counsel but wouldn't say why, the 14-day deadline. What happens in 14 days? I asked. Leslie shook her head. I don't know, but I know we're not waiting to find out. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through contacts. I'm calling Tom Reynolds. He did our estate planning, but he'll know someone who handles this kind of thing. While she made the call, I went back to the box. I pulled out each hard drive, examined each phone, looked through every page of documents. Everything was professional, organized, deliberate. This wasn't panic storage. This was planned. Somewhere in my house, my children had decided I was useful. Not as a father, not as family, as a patsy. A clean address attached to a retired guy who wouldn't ask questions and wouldn't know what he was looking at, even if he did. They'd been right about that last part. For 5 years, I'd walked past this box 100 times, maybe more. I'd moved it when I needed to get to the camping gear, dusted the shelf it sat on, never once thought to check what was actually inside. Because it came from family, because I trusted them. I thought about Brian's voice on the phone, the casual dismissal, the way he'd acted like I was being paranoid. I thought about Emily's flat denial, the offense she'd taken, the accusation she'd turned back on me, and Karen. Karen, who'd apologized but wouldn't explain, who'd admitted she made a mistake but wouldn't say what it was. Leslie finished her call and came back to the workbench. Tom's going to make some calls. He'll have a name for us by tomorrow morning. She looked at the box, then at me. What do you want to do? I want to know what my kids did. And I want to know why they thought they could use me like this. And then? I didn't have an answer for that. Not yet. But somewhere in the back of my mind, something cold and patient was starting to wake up. Then we'll see, I said. Leslie nodded. She understood. We'd been married 35 years. She knew when I was finished talking and when I was finished thinking, and she knew the difference between the two. We put everything back in the box exactly as we'd found it, closed the flaps, and left it on the workbench. Tomorrow we'd deal with lawyers and investigators and whatever else came next. Tonight, we needed to think. I went to bed, but didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, listening to Leslie breathe beside me, listening to the house settle, listening to my own thoughts circle and spiral and sharpen. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Text message, unknown number. Stop asking questions. I showed it to Leslie. She sat up, wide awake immediately. Change of plans, she said. We're not waiting until morning. The settlement expired at midnight. I didn't sleep. I sat in my home office with my laptop open, the recording of Drew's confession playing on loop, waiting for something to happen. At 12:01 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Garrett? A man's voice I didn't recognize. Professional, clipped. This is Special Agent Marcus Webb, FBI. I need you to listen very carefully. My stomach dropped. What's wrong? We executed search warrants on Drew Merritt's residence and office 3 hours ago. He wasn't there. Neither was your daughter Emily. We have reason to believe they've fled the jurisdiction. Fled where? We don't know yet. But we found evidence in Drew's office indicating he's been planning this for months. Fake passports, offshore account transfers, airline reservations under aliases. He's gone, Mr. Garrett. And he took your daughter with him. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. Emily wouldn't run. She's not. Her phone's been turned off since yesterday morning. Her credit cards haven't been used. She withdrew $50,000 in cash from your joint account 4 days ago. Agent Webb paused. I'm sorry, I know this is difficult, but we need you to come in for an interview, now. Tonight. I'm on my way, I told Leslie. She grabbed her coat without a word. We drove to the FBI field office in downtown Boston, through empty streets, past closed businesses, into a parking garage that felt like a scene from a movie. Everything surreal, disconnected. Agent Webb met us in the lobby. He was younger than his voice suggested, maybe 40, with tired eyes, and the kind of face that had seen too much. He led us to a conference room with fluorescent lights and bad coffee. "Tell me everything," he said. I did. The box, the lawyer's call, the evidence, the meetings with Kenneth and Vincent, Drew's threats, Emily's plea, all of it. Agent Webb took notes, asked follow-up questions, recorded everything on a device he set between us on the table. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes. "You should have come to us sooner. I should have done a lot of things sooner. Drew Merritt is dangerous, Mr. Garrett, not violent. We don't think he'd physically hurt anyone, but he's smart, he's resourceful, and he's been planning his exit strategy for years. He's got money hidden all over the world, properties in countries without extradition treaties, contacts who can help him disappear permanently." "And my daughter? If she went willingly, there's not much we can do until we find her. If she didn't..." He trailed off. "If she didn't, then what? You're telling me Drew kidnapped her?" "I'm telling you we don't know, but her purse was found in their house, her phone, her wallet, her identification, all there, like she left in a hurry without planning to be gone long. That's not consistent with voluntary flight." Leslie grabbed my hand under the table. Her grip was tight, painful. "What about Brian?" I asked. "My son. Is he gone too?" "We haven't been able to reach him either. His business partner says he didn't show up for work yesterday or today. No calls, no emails. We've got agents heading to his house now." Jesus Christ. I put my head in my hands. They took both of them. "We don't know that yet, but we're treating this as a possible abduction. We've issued a BOLO for Drew Merritt's vehicle, flagged his passport and known aliases, and we're coordinating with Interpol in case he's already left the country." "What do you need from me?" Agent Webb pulled out a file folder thick with documents. "First, we need the evidence, all of it. Every hard drive, every document, every copy you made. Chain of custody starts now." I'd expected this. I pulled out my phone and showed him the cloud storage link, the bank deposit box information, the location of the physical backups. Everything. "Second," he continued, "we need you to stay available. Don't leave the state. Don't talk to the media. Don't contact anyone involved in the fraud. You're a material witness now, possibly the most important witness we have." "What about protection?" "We'll have agents monitoring your house. If Drew contacts you, we'll know immediately, but we don't think he's coming after you. His pattern suggests he runs from problems, not toward them. Unless he needs something I have." Agent Webb nodded slowly. "What else could he want from you?" I thought about the evidence, the recordings, the paper trail I'd built over the last 2 weeks. Proof. Proof that I destroyed everything. Proof that he's safe. You think he'd risk coming back for that? If he's desperate enough, yeah, I think he would. We spent another 3 hours at the FBI office, going through every detail of the fraud, every conversation I'd had, every document I'd seen. By the time they let us leave, dawn was breaking over the city. Leslie drove home. I sat in the passenger seat, numb, trying to process the fact that both my kids were missing, and there was nothing I could do about it. "They'll find them," Leslie said. "You don't know that." "I know the FBI doesn't give up. I know Drew made mistakes. I know he's not as smart as he thinks he is. He's smart enough to disappear with both our kids. If he took them. We don't know that yet. But I did know. I could feel it. Drew had played us all perfectly, made us think we had time, made us think the FBI would move fast enough, made us think he'd run alone. Instead, he'd grabbed the 2 pieces of leverage that would keep me from testifying and fled. When we got home, there was a black SUV parked across the street, 2 agents inside, visible through the tinted windows. Protection or surveillance, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. Inside, our house felt empty. Too quiet. Too still. I went to Emily's old bedroom. She'd moved out years ago, but we'd kept it mostly the same. Photos on the walls, her high school trophies on the shelf, books she'd loved as a kid. I sat on her bed and tried to remember the last time we'd really talked. Not about the evidence or the fraud or Drew. Just talked. Father and daughter, the way we used to. I couldn't remember. And that hurt more than anything. My phone rang. Brian. Dad? Relief flooded through me so hard I almost dropped the phone. Brian, Jesus Christ, where are you? I'm okay, I'm safe, but I can't tell you where. The FBI says you're missing. They're looking for you and Emily. I know. I saw the news. Dad, I didn't run. I went into hiding because Drew told me I needed to. Drew told you? When? 2 days ago. He showed up at my apartment, said the FBI was going to arrest everyone involved in Meridian Holdings, said I needed to disappear for a few weeks until things settled down. He had a plan, he had money, he said he'd protect me. And you believed him? I didn't have a choice. He showed me the search warrants, showed me the FBI surveillance photos, showed me that they were coming for all of us. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to call me, or call a lawyer, or turn yourself in, not run away with the guy who got you into this mess in the first place. Brian's voice got quieter. I was scared, Dad. I'm still scared. Where's Emily? I don't know. Drew said he'd handle her separately, said it was safer if we didn't know each other's locations. He was supposed to call me yesterday with an update, but I haven't heard from him. Because he's gone, Brian. He fled, took Emily with him. The FBI thinks he's already out of the country. Silence. Then, no, he wouldn't do that. He promised he'd protect us. He lied, just like he lied about everything else, just like he's been lying since the day he got you involved in this fraud. I wasn't involved. Not really, You signed documents. Your name is all over the transactions. You're involved, whether you want to admit it or not. More silence. I could hear Brian breathing hard, panicking. What do I do? He asked finally. You come home, right now. You walk into that FBI office and you tell them everything. You cooperate, you testify, you take whatever deal they offer you. But Emily made her choice. She chose Drew. Now you need to choose differently. I can't just abandon her. You're not abandoning her. You're saving yourself. Because if Drew took her where I think he did, the FBI is going to need your testimony to bring him back. You're the only leverage we have. Brian was crying now. Not sobs, just quiet tears I could hear in his voice. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know. Come home. He hung up. I didn't know if he'd actually do it, but I hoped. I called Agent Webb and told him about the conversation. He said they'd trace Brian's phone, try to locate him before he moved again. The rest of the day was a blur. FBI agents coming and going, asking questions, taking statements. News vans started appearing around noon. Someone had leaked the story. FBI raids linked to massive real estate fraud. My name wasn't mentioned yet, but it would be. Soon. Leslie handled the reporters. I stayed inside, watching through the windows as our quiet street turned into a circus. At 4 p.m., Brian walked through our front door. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, wearing the same clothes he'd probably been sleeping in for 2 days. But he was here. He was safe. I hugged him. He hugged back. We stood there in the hallway, father and son, while FBI agents waited in our living room to take him into custody. I'm sorry, he said again. I know. They arrested him gently, read him his rights, put him in cuffs, walked him to an unmarked car. The reporters went crazy, cameras flashing, questions shouted. Brian kept his head down. Agent Webb stayed behind. He's making the right choice. Will it help Emily? Maybe. If Drew's got her somewhere against her will, Brian's testimony could help us locate her faster. If she went willingly... He trailed off again. Then she's an accomplice. Yes. I watched the FBI car drive away with my son inside it. 33 years old, successful businessman, devoted father, reduced to a defendant in a federal fraud case. All because he'd trusted the wrong person. All because I'd let him. That night, Drew called. Not a text, an actual phone call from a number I didn't recognize while Leslie and I were eating dinner that neither of us could taste. Alan, I hope you're happy. I put the call on speaker and gestured for Leslie to stay quiet. Where's Emily? She's safe. That's all you need to know. The FBI says you kidnapped her. Drew laughed. Kidnapped? She came willingly. Begged me to take her, actually. Said she couldn't face prison, couldn't face what she'd done. Said she'd rather disappear than watch her life fall apart. I don't believe you. Believe whatever you want. But she's with me, she's fine, and she's not coming back. Not until this whole thing blows over. It's not going to blow over. You've got federal charges pending. Multiple agencies looking for you. Interpol, FBI, probably Treasury by now. You can run, but you can't hide forever. Watch me. I've got resources you can't imagine. Money you'll never find. Properties in places that don't extradite to the US. I can disappear for decades if I need to. And Emily? She just gives up her whole life? Her friends, her family, her career? She's building a new life, with me, away from people like you who'd throw her in prison just to prove a point. I'm not throwing her anywhere. She made her own choices. Because you gave her no other option. You could have destroyed the evidence. You could have taken the money and walked away. Instead, you had to be righteous. You had to be the hero. And now your daughter's paying the price. I gripped the phone so hard it hurt. Let me talk to her. No. Then how do I know she's really okay? You don't. You'll just have to trust me. Trust you? After everything you've done? After everything I've done to protect your family, to keep Brian and Emily out of prison, to give them a future despite their mistakes. Yeah, trust me, because I'm the only thing standing between them and federal charges. Brian's already in custody. Silence. Then, what? He came home this afternoon. He's cooperating with the FBI. He's going to testify against everyone involved, including you. More silence. I could hear Drew breathing, could almost feel his panic through the phone. He's making a mistake. He's making the right choice, and when the FBI finds Emily, she'll make it too. They won't find her. I made sure of that. You made sure she's trapped, with you, in whatever hole you're hiding in. That's not protection, Drew. That's prison. You don't know what you're talking about. Then prove it. Let her call me. Let her tell me herself that she wants to be there. No. Because you know she doesn't. Because you know if she had a choice, she'd come home. Drew's voice went cold. You want to play games, Alan? Fine. Here's the game. You've got 72 hours to convince the FBI to drop all charges against Emily. Full immunity, no prosecution, clean slate. You do that, I bring her back. You don't, and you never see her again. The FBI doesn't negotiate with fugitives? Then you better be persuasive. 72 hours, starting now. He hung up. Leslie stared at me. He's bluffing. He has to be. Maybe, but what if he's not? I called Agent Webb, told him about Drew's ultimatum. He was quiet for a long time after I finished. We can't offer Emily immunity, he said finally. She's a co-conspirator. Her emails prove she was involved in planning the fraud, executing the transactions, laundering the money. The best we can do is recommend leniency if she cooperates. That's not what Drew's asking for. I know, and that's how we know he's bluffing. He doesn't actually care if Emily goes to prison. He cares about leverage. He's using her to control you, to stop you from testifying. What if you're wrong? Then Emily's already made her choice, and there's nothing we can do until we find her. I hung up and sat in my kitchen, staring at nothing. 72 hours. 3 days to save my daughter or lose her forever. Leslie made tea. We sat together in silence, drinking it without tasting it, watching the clock. At midnight, my phone buzzed. Email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line. Just a photo attachment. I opened it. Emily, sitting in what looked like a hotel room, holding today's newspaper, looking directly at the camera. Alive, unharmed, but her eyes were red from crying. Below the photo, a message. 65 hours left. I showed it to Leslie. She grabbed the phone, forwarded the email to Agent Webb, called him before the message even sent. "They'll trace it," she said after hanging up. "They'll find the IP address, the location metadata, something." But I knew they wouldn't. Drew was too careful, too smart. He'd used a burner device, a VPN, maybe even a proxy server. He'd planned this, every step. The next 2 days were torture. FBI agents running traces that led nowhere. Brian in custody, giving statements, providing everything he knew about Drew's escape plans. Me and Leslie waiting, watching the clock count down, helpless. 50 hours, 40 hours, 30. At the 24-hour mark, another email, another photo. Emily, same room, different newspaper, and a video file. I clicked it. Emily's voice, strained but clear. "Dad, I'm okay. Drew's taking care of me. He says if you just do what he's asking, I can come home. Please, Dad, just do what he wants." Her eyes said something different. They said help me. I played it again, and again, looking for clues, for background noise, for anything that might tell us where she was. Agent Webb's team analyzed the video. They found nothing useful. Blank walls, generic furniture, no sounds except Emily's voice and Drew's breathing behind the camera. 12 hours, Agent Webb said. "We need to prepare for the possibility that he's serious." He's serious. I can see it in Emily's eyes. Then we need to decide, do we negotiate or do we call his bluff? If we call his bluff and he's not bluffing, then we've lost her, I know. But if we negotiate and give him what he wants, we've set a precedent. Every fugitive with leverage will try the same thing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. Instead, I said, "What would you do if it was your daughter?" Agent Webb looked at me, really looked at me. I'd give him what he wants, and then I'd spend the rest of my life tracking him down. Even if it meant letting him get away? Getting away temporarily isn't the same as getting away forever. Drew Merritt will make a mistake. They always do, and when he does, we'll be ready. I made the decision, called Drew's number. It went to voicemail. Left a message saying I'd convinced the FBI to offer Emily full immunity in exchange for her cooperation. Complete fabrication, but Drew couldn't verify it before the deadline. Then I waited. The deadline passed. 6 hours. 12. No response from Drew, no emails, no calls, no photos. Emily was gone.